Hi everyone, my name is Sakiv. Welcome to Social Pilates House podcast. I am with the lovely Christiana, who is a brilliant nutritionist. We are going to be talking all about nutrition and fitness today. So Christiana, we've got a number of different questions that we want to ask you. And I think the first one is just about how did you embark on this journey into nutrition?
Well, firstly, I love food. You know, my background is Greek Cypriot. Food is a big part of our culture, and I just genuinely love food. But it wasn't until I worked in mental health and with eating disorders, and I kind of saw the relationship between food and wellness.
Right.
And I just wanted to explore that a little bit more. And the more I explored that, the more I realized that food is really powerful. Nutrition is really powerful. So I left the NHS, retrained as a nutritionist, and I love it because it's, you know, nutrition really is such a cornerstone for how we feel physically, mentally. So yeah, that was kind of a bit of a quick description as to how I'm here.
No, it's so true. I feel like any time you eat something and it's about that mind over matter, and when you're having a bad day, you will pick up and eat all the kind of things that you're not meant to do.
Oh my God,
but it makes you feel better for that little bit of time. But you're right, you do sort of pay for it after. So it's really good about having that education around food so that we can make the right choices, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, our mind and our body are so connected, and I think, this space shows that massively. And definitely when it comes to food, our food choices are largely driven by our psychology. How we feel afterwards, after we eat something, is affected by so many things. So so I think, and actually interestingly now, my background in psychology and my new career in nutrition are so linked. The two they go hand in hand. And sometimes when I'm trying to make nutrition changes for somebody, that psychology background does come into play because, it's the two are just massively linked.
Yeah, because I can imagine your brain being really powerful in making those decisions. But
definitely.
You kind of know what you want to do and what then what you have, as in what you're doing, isn't it? It's probably not.
Definitely. Sometimes it's about habits. Sometimes people just need to understand the habits and why they make the choices they make. Other times it is a little bit deeper. There is some trauma there that we need to maybe help unpick as to why we comfort eat. But yeah, the two are massively interlinked. So, and I think that's probably why I love it so much. Yeah. Because it's not just, I made a bad choice. There was a reason. That's kind of like why I love doing the two together.
So I guess the next question or topic that we want to discuss is, obviously you've got clients that call you up or message you and email you. How do you go about sort of, I guess, planning their nutrition for them?
Okay, great question. The first thing is I very much work evidence-based. So I follow the science, and that informs my practice, because I can't in any good conscience make a recommendation unless I know there's been some real science backing that. And then of course we've got to make that personalized. It's got to be down to the individual. The best design study is still not going to be as accurate as what the person's body is telling me. So I might make a recommendation, but they might say, actually, yes, that feels great, or actually, it didn't feel great, and we kind of go from there. We've got to look at lifestyle. So if someone says to me, I know I should eat this and this, but my lifestyle doesn't allow, we've got to work with that. That is so important.
So important, honestly.
We're busy mums.
I know.
There's no point in me telling somebody, make your own sausages. It's never going to happen.
You have an idea, and and then I think you also feel guilty when you don't hit that milestone, or you don't hit. I always wake up and I think, okay, today I'm going to be really super healthy, and I have a to-do list, and I have a list of what I'm going to eat, and then suddenly something throws, like your kid's sick or something happens, and then
every single week, right?
Yeah, every
something
single
happens.
week, and then you go, you don't eat what you're meant to, and then it's that guilt as well. And I think that's what we need to get better at, just being nicer and kinder to ourselves.
100%. But actually, it kind of, before that, let's not set the bar quite so high. So my clients might say to me, yes, give me meals for 5 days a week. And I'll say, actually, no. I'll give you a menu for 4 days a week, knowing full well that one day you're going to grab a pasta and something from the freezer, knowing full well that one day you're not going to fancy what we've planned. That's life.
Yeah.
If I say to you, yes, you must cook from scratch 5, 6, 7 days a week, and you inevitably aren't going to do that, you're going to feel bad.
Yeah.
It's just not possible. So let's work with life. Let's work with what's happening. What is your day-to-day like? So don't set the bar quite so high. Let's be realistic, and actually that is good enough for most people. So for me, that's really important. So my initial consultations might be an hour and a half long, mainly because we're talking about lifestyle. What works for them, and then of course there's preference. I will never tell someone to eat something, no matter how nutritious it might be, if they don't like it.
Okay.
So we've got to go with what feels good. If you don't like something, it's not going to be sustainable, and you're not going to get the benefits. So I very much get to know my clients, find out what works for them, and that's how I make my recommendations.
And I think that's so practical in this day and age, because it's like telling our kids, like, potentially, like, you can't do this. They're going to want to do it more.
Absolutely.
So if you're saying you can't eat this, you're going to want to do it more. And it's like me and my husband do this all the time. We're like, right, we're not going to have chocolate Monday to Thursday. And then lo and behold, we've had a hard day at work, and we're like, right, rip it open, get the Tonies out. And and it's like, we can't put that restriction on, because you're right, life takes over.
We need to be realistic. No, life is hard enough.
Yeah.
And also it's unnecessary. We don't have to be this strict. We don't have to be have such high demands of ourselves. And I think that's one of the reasons I don't like the narrative at the moment of avoid all processed food or avoid all convenience foods. My kitchen's full of convenience foods and processed foods. Obviously, I make good choices within those, but we need to work with what we've got and what time allows. Let's just be a bit nice to ourselves, because
life's so short. Let's just enjoy it. Yeah. I mean, do you find, because obviously, like, when you're the master of the trade, do you find like, everyone expects you to be eating a certain way? Because I know that I get that in Reformer Pilates. Everyone's like, well, you must be ripped, like working out every single day. And I was like, I mean, I'd love to say yes, but I mean, when you teach, you're like, once you've taught, you're cleaning up, and then you're going straight to do the kids and the admin and everything that goes behind running your own business. So you don't actually get as much time that you would love to on exercising. So do you find that with you?
Oh my God, definitely. People are always surprised when they see me having a macaron, which I just love, and I know it's full of sugar, or a glass of wine. But actually, the more knowledge I gain, the more I understand nutrition, the less I feel the need to be strict with myself.
Right, okay.
I was much stricter 10 years ago when I first kind of really got into this career, because I was like, oh my God, I've got to be perfect, because that's the only way you can be healthy. And actually now I know that's really not the case. I do it very well. I love good food. It's a massive priority for me, but I don't feel the need to eat that way all the time.
Sure.
It's unnecessary. I just spent a week with my friends on holiday. There was wine, there was cocktails, there were chips, and but obviously every morning I had my eggs and I had my veg. I made an effort to have fruit. So most of the time I eat well, nutritious foods, and some of the time I just eat what feels good, and it's not nutritious, but that's okay, because that's good for me too. Because what I will tell you is that, and I know this because I saw it in my previous career, is that restriction and being afraid of food is far more unhealthy than having a bit of chocolate.
Yeah, that's true. And they always say that everything in moderation to a certain extent. Otherwise, what's the point?
God, like chocolate, it's just amazing. Like, why would you not want to have chocolate?
Although I have to say, I did try your, because I know that you make lovely recipes, and every time you're kind of my guilty pleasure. I kind of look at your food recipes and give me inspiration. What can I cook today? And then I did try your your chocolate brownies. Well, with the chickpeas, and I have to say,
how good are
delicious.
They? How good are they?
Really good. My kids loved them. Well, my older one, my younger one didn't actually. He's 3, but my older one really loved them. I really like them as well.
I love doing that. I have something chocolatey every single day, without fail. I just love chocolate every single day. Chocolate is nutritionist approved, without a doubt. Woo-hoo. Some days I will make an alternative. So I'll have my healthy chickpea brownies that I'm sorry, I still think taste amazing. Some days it'll be my protein shake, which will be with cacao powder to give them that chocolate hit. Other days it will just be the chocolate bar, the normal, standard, full of sugar chocolate bar. So it's about finding alternatives, finding other choices, and then sometimes just going for exactly what you crave.
Yeah, I think that's right. So I guess another topic I wanted to touch upon, because I mean, this is me all over down to a T. It's, you know, we've got kids, both of us, and I've just recently opened my business. I know you've been in the industry for a while. How do you manage to juggle your business with 2 kids?
Yeah. Gosh, I mean, I think the first thing is I've stopped trying to do everything. Okay. I think the worst thing that they told us as women is that we can do it all. We don't want to. Like we try. We don't. Yeah, it's too much, and we try. But actually, I stopped trying to do everything. You know, I have to prioritize. Like exercise is important to me, really important to me. But on a day where I'm going to choose to exercise, something else won't get done. And that's just okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay if the laundry waits. It's okay if an errand doesn't get done, you know, because I have to prioritize. And before, I would expect that I had to be perfect, that everything had to get done, everything had to be immaculate. And actually, the pressure was just too much. So the first thing was accepting that I couldn't do everything. That being said, I have learned to be as organized as my life allows me. I do things like meal prepping. It is an absolute game changer.
Do you do it like on a Sunday or something?
It depends. You know, sometimes I'll dedicate a couple of hours to do like loads of meal prepping. Yeah. Other times I'll just do 10 minutes wherever I find the time. So like tonight's dinner is going to be cottage pie, but the base is already cooked. It was in the freezer from 2 weeks ago when I made another cottage pie, doubled up the quantities. The base is already done.
What time do you think we should all come over?
I know, you're all welcome. You're all welcome. You know, because I don't have time today. Like after here, I'm going to go get the kids, homework. My daughter's got dance. It's not possible. So if I didn't have something ready, it would have been something that I don't really want to give my kids on a Monday night, you know. So I've learnt to be organised. Like on Sunday, while they were doing their homework, I just chopped some veg and just chucked it in the fridge. It's ready to go for throughout the week. So I've learnt these little shortcuts that really help me manage my life. And I think the final thing that, again, it just makes all the difference is I ask for help. You know, women are a community. If we ask each other for help, I mean, I don't think I would have got through my kids' primary school years if it wasn't for both paid help, quite frankly, and the help of my friends, the school mums. So, you know, we've just got to help each other out.
It's so true. But you're right. I think we think that we can do it all, even though we don't want to do it all, but we think we can. And we put this pressure on ourselves. Like, it's crazy. Like, you know, my to-do list is unrealistic.
I know.
Like, it's ridiculous. Like, even when I write it, I'm like, what am I doing?
I know.
And then I get to a point where sometimes it's not even on the to-do list, but I'll add it because I want to make sure I've ticked it off. And then I sit there going, oh my God, I'm giving myself anxiety because I know I won't be able to achieve any of that. And then it's the whole thing again. So it's like there's so much to do, and you're right with the kids and the admin, and you're just like, where do I?
It's too much.
But you're right, it's prioritizing. And you're right. I think the nutrition side of it is it's the meal prep for our family. I think we need to be a bit more organized on a Sunday, let's say per se, and start. And we did it actually yesterday. We did do it a little bit yesterday where. Now I know tonight is actually a little bit more easy because I'm working tonight as well, that I can just feed the kids, get them ready for bed and then come back here and do a class.
It makes such a difference. I mean, when I say this to clients, they say to me, I don't have time. And I'll say to them, it will take you 1 hour to look in your cupboards, look in your fridge, you know, plan a menu and do the food order. Give it an hour. It will save you several hours across the week because you're not doing daily supermarket runs because you're not like, you know, looking for ingredients. It's already there. Dedicate that hour once a week to just planning, and the rest of the week is easier. So that is something I really, really do prioritize.
Yeah, because then we panic cook because then we're like we're at Waitrose and we're spending a fortune every day.
I know.
Because we have no idea what we're making, and then it's like the dishes are everywhere. Everything's everywhere, and you're like, oh my goodness. So I actually have to say it's a bit more calmer because I know today I've got a meal prep and it's done.
And that way it helps me make sure that I cover everyone's bases, you know. So my husband is gluten-free, my daughter's lactose intolerant, you know, my son loves meat, my daughter wants to be vegetarian. So
what do you do?
I know. How am I going to meet all those needs if I don't plan? So what ends up happening is if I haven't planned, which does unfortunately sometimes happen, is I will be squandering and cook 3 or 4 different things. So planning, I know we're busy, but it actually saves us time. So for me, Like it's
just being organised and
yeah,
planning.
just a little bit, as much as
Yeah.
life allows. But yeah, let's be a bit more organised.
And being kinder to ourselves.
Yeah,
Like, I keep mentioning this, but it's so true. We just need to, whether you're male, female, everyone, I
Yeah.
think in the world, we just all need to be kinder to ourselves.
Yeah, I mean,
because
there's days when literally I don't have the energy or the time or don't fancy what I've planned, and we're going to have cheese toasties with some fruit and veg on the side.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
No,
You know, they've got their
absolutely
carbs,
not.
they've got their protein, they've got their veg, done. And I'm okay with that. Whereas 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have felt like such a failure,
Yeah.
you know, if I served my kids that. And now I'm like, they're like, woohoo, great, cheese toasties. Like, why not?
No, they love it, and they're eating it. It's healthy. It's still healthy-ish. You know what I mean? They still get, as you say, they get the key things that they need to.
I mean, despite the media, bread is not going to kill us, I promise.
Yeah. I mean, and so just touching upon that, like obviously you see a lot of things on social media and you know the news and things like that around. You mentioned the processed things. Like, how do you sort of manage all of those things that get some of them you probably will agree with, some of them you probably don't, but what do you do in your clinic that's a bit different, I guess?
I think something I do a little bit differently is I don't demonize everything. I think something I preach and live by is quantity and frequency. So everything can be damaging depending on the quantity that we're having. Water is toxic in excessive quantities.
Really?
You know, oh my God, yes, it's a thing.
didn't know that.
Water poisoning is a thing. And also because if you have too much water, you are going to dilute vital minerals.
Right.
No, so you know, anything can be toxic or unhealthy, if we're going to use that word, in excessive quantities. And by the same token, everything is perfectly fine in small quantities. So I talk to my clients about quantity and frequency. If you love, you know, I don't know, let's pick something that is really not a healthy thing. Deep fried corn dogs, I don't know, whatever, okay? If you have one once a month, nothing's going to happen to you. Nothing's going to happen to you. If you love a cheeseburger and you have one, you know, once every couple of weeks with your kids, nothing's going to happen to you. If you have it every day, we have a problem. So actually, I think I really talk to people about, you know, be realistic and understand the concepts when it comes to health of quantity and frequency, because that is a game changer. But same with healthy stuff. Someone might say to me, oh, I do get plenty of veg. I'm like, okay, let's talk about quantity and frequency. And they'll say, well, on Monday I had a piece of broccoli with my dinner. On Tuesday there was some salad in my sandwich. I'm like, whoa. That is not enough, either in quantity or frequency. So it works both ways, whether it's the good stuff or the not so nutritious stuff. I shouldn't really use good and bad, but nutritious or less nutritious, quantity and frequency are really what we need to get our heads around.
Interesting. I think you're right, because especially when we just starting from such a young age as well, for my kids as well, that like when I start blending loads of vegetables in their pasta sauce, because I'm like, it's sometimes a bit of a mission to get like I mean, luckily he loves broccoli, but still I'm just like, let's blend. I want him to have variety.
Absolutely.
Otherwise it's always broccoli and peas, which again, there's nothing wrong
with it.
Nothing wrong with that, but it's just more around how do we get them to stop being sort of picky eaters, and you know, it's a whole thing that comes with it.
Just keep exposing them to it. Just keep exposing them to it. You know, I mean, obviously mine are a bit older now, and I hate to say this, but they can get picky even later on.
Really?
Sorry. You know, my daughter is nearly 16, and although she loves good food, she's also kind of getting to kind of let me know what she does and doesn't like, and that is absolutely fine. But just let them see us eat well. You know, the other day, my son, he just picked up a date, opened it and put some almonds in it, and I've never given that to him, but he's seen me do it so much that he was like, that looks pretty good. She seems to love it, I might love it, you know. So you know, let them constantly, the more children see us eating something, food is about associations, good associations. So if they see us enjoying something, they are far more likely. It might take a month, it might take 5 years, but let them constantly be exposed to the good stuff, and at some point they will pick it up and far more likely to enjoy it as well.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, I'm sure you're right.
Fingers crossed. But in the meantime, hide the veggies. Nothing wrong with that.
I think so.
Yeah, oh my God, I still do it.
I
still do it. Oh God, yeah. I still do it. Blended veg in the pasta sauces, the blended veg in the smoothies, the blended veg in their ice cream, you know, anywhere I can get extra veg, I will do it.
Oh my God, great tip.
Yeah. Add courgette to smoothies.
Courgette to smoothies?
Courgette to smoothies.
Oh.
No one will know it's there.
Nice. I've started to do courgette with in my pasta sauce actually.
Yeah.
And they really like that. But courgette to me, and then I think there was a cake that I was planning to make which had it said courgette and beetroot.
It's so neutral.
Yeah.
Beetroot's a little bit of a stronger flavour, a bit
But
earthy, so some people will pick it up. When I love it, I make a chocolate cake with loads of beetroot in it because I love the flavour. But courgette is so neutral that, you know, so I always have chopped or grated frozen courgette, which just gets popped into my smoothies almost every day, actually. And it's an extra portion of veg for me, more fibre, great for the kids. So yeah. Have frozen courgette.
Thank you for that tip.
Yeah.
So how would you say that nutrition affects performance and recovery? Let's say if you're doing an exercise like Reformer Pilates, what would you recommend and how does it all impact it?
Well, massively is the short answer. So nutrition impacts both performance and recovery. So if you think about, I mean, especially Reformer Pilates is quite a challenging, which is part of the beauty of it, but you're asking your body to perform. How can it do that without fuel? And really, when it comes to the exercise, that's what food is. It's the fuel, it's the carbohydrates for the energy and the focus and the stamina to do the class, but also to do it well. If you're not properly fueled, you might be able to do the exercise, but you're not going to do it to the best of your ability. And actually, we're going to get the most benefit from that last bit of challenge. So, and there's interesting research, more recent research that shows that women shouldn't really do overly demanding exercise fasted. So we need to have some fuel in the tank to be able to exercise. But on the other side, there's the repair. So again, you know, we need to eat well. So nutrition really matters for after exercise, whether it's the protein to help our muscles recover, you know, the carbs to restore glycogen stores, but also the healthy fats, because when we're doing something that's demanding, like I remember doing the class here and my legs were like just shaking and I love that feeling. But actually what we're doing is we're creating some low-grade inflammation. Not a bad thing, it's just a part of the process, but we need healthy fats to help bring down inflammation. So proper nutrition when it comes to getting the most out of your exercise is really important. The two go hand in hand.
Yeah, because that's interesting, because I know that, and I used to do this as well, is the intermittent fasting. And it wasn't because I planned to do it, it's just because my diary was such that I would be so busy until about midday, and then I would start to eat my breakfast or brunch, you can call it. So, and I was working out. So, I mean, like, I guess that now from just learning what you've just said, it kind of just doesn't, it probably defeats what I'm doing then.
Fasting doesn't work quite so well for women. Our hormones we are a little bit more fragile when it comes to our hormones. So I'm not saying none of us should ever do it. I do have clients that do it. I don't generally have my first meal until 11, because just when I'm hungry. But if I'm hungry at 9, I will eat at 9. But generally speaking, longer term fasting isn't great for us, especially if we're exercising. We need to fuel that exercise to get the most out of it, to feel well. And actually what we see both in the research, and I see this in my clients, I see it in myself, if we are under eating at the earlier part of the day, we are far more likely to overeat in the later part of the day. So any client of mine, we all do it. And there's loads of reasons for that, whether the reasons are psychological, but there are hormonal reasons as well. So if we haven't eaten enough in the first part of the day, certain hunger hormones are going to be elevated. And there'll come a point where, you know, they are so elevated, we're just ravenous. So we're not going to make good food choices. So I always advise my female clients, let's shift the quantity of food to earlier on in the day. Eat more earlier on, and you will almost always eat less later on, which is just, you know, and when I say eat less, I don't mean skip dinner. I mean is don't have the giant bar of chocolate and the family bag of crisps after dinner, which we do, because we haven't eaten enough earlier on.
Yeah, because that's, I mean, I guess that happens because when you're so busy, sometimes you do miss meals, and then you start making those wrong choices, and then you want to eat more and more. And it's probably better, as you say, not to eat so much before you're about to sleep as well. So you just balance it through the day.
Yeah. Well, you're trying to fall asleep and your body's working on digestive, loads of, or a big meal. It's really not ideal.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying don't have a big meal. That usually is my biggest meal. It's the time I eat with my family, but I will try not to eat too much after that. And I find that when I've had enough food during the day, so like a really big, my breakfast is substantial. When I say breakfast, it's about 11, so my brunch or whatever, is substantial. And whenever I do that, so I hit a minimum of 40 grams of protein in that first meal, I feel massively different throughout the day. I eat much less at night and I just feel better.
Yeah.
So whereas for years, I thought I was winning if I hardly ate until dinner. And then what I would do is I'd go and pick at stuff and consume hundreds of calories, unsatisfying. So, we need to kind of try, for most people anyway, try and shift that a little bit.
And it's true, because when you do let's say if it was the intermittent fasting, you kind of like, oh, I've got like 2 meals because now it's like brunch and then dinner or whatever it might be. And then you're like, oh, but I didn't eat breakfast. I can have a bit more of this, and you indulge because you're like, well, it's fine. I'm intermittent fasting.
Absolutely.
But actually, you're right. And I think the older we get, our hormones change as well.
Oh my God.
I think I could actually have dealt with intermittent fasting before, but now I feel like I actually need the fuel for the food.
Absolutely.
And going back to like Reformer, like you're right, it is quite strenuous and it is, intense at times. So, it's just, it's really important what you said, that we should be fueling the body before and after, just to make sure that repair is there.
Definitely. But to be able to do this like amazing class well, you can't come with an empty tank. You're just not going to get the best out of it. Blood sugar is going to drop dramatically. It's just not great. So going for a gentle walk, if you haven't eaten much, fine, no worries. And some people, there's always outliers. I do have some clients who go and smash a workout at 6 a.m. or whatever without a
bit too early to eat sometimes then.
So for some, but even those, I'll say to them, can you try and have something small for fuel? If they can't, that's fine, and they seem to be okay with that. I'm talking about most women.
Yeah. But then, so in terms of what would you, let's say if someone is busy on the go and they're going to take a class, what would you recommend, like maybe a couple of things, just what they should eat before and what should they eat sort of straight after? Is there anything that you do recommend?
Well, it depends on kind of, timing is really important. So if you've got a couple of hours until your class, it can be a light meal because you've got enough time for it to digest sufficiently, and it's not going to affect your performance. It's not going to affect how you feel in the class. You don't want anything heavy while you're having a workout. So a light meal that's kind of balanced, the carbs, the protein, a bit of healthy fats. If it's within the hour, so I'll say something like, some dried fruits, some fresh fruit, banana is great, a few nuts for those healthy fats. I love these little gut bars. They've got really lovely ingredients, or like oat bars, something small, so it's not going to fill up your stomach too much, but it's going to give you enough quick release energy to be able to do the exercise and feel good while you're doing it. I think that's the really important thing.
I know, because it's the worst, is that, let's say you've just timed it completely wrong, or your hunger levels take over and then you're bloated, or you're like feeling too full to do the workout, you're feeling faint because you haven't eaten. So it's like,
just not. And women are, so what we do at 10 a.m., 2 p.m. really affects how we feel later. So, our hormones don't function independently hour on hour, so they're a constant, kind of nice rhythm. But what we did earlier on affects the hormones that are circulating later on in the evening. So it's really important to think about our day in totality. So, if you really push yourself and you do an intense exercise class without any fuel and you kind of feel weak as a result of it, you're not going to feel great for hours later. You're going to be hungry, you're not going to make great food choices. That's going to have another cascade. So think about your day as a whole. It doesn't have to be difficult. It can be, a chicken wrap as a light meal, or a, whatever wrap, or it could just be a little bar. It doesn't have to be hard, but you do need to fuel properly.
This has just hit the nail on the head, because I feel like I know a couple of people which obviously have, come to classes all the time, and whether it's here or just general PT and things like that. And it makes sense because they always they're seeing the results, but I think this is coupled with nutrition and fitness. It's hand in hand to a certain extent.
It has to be.
Because I think if you're doing one and maybe not so much on the other, you're not going to see the full results. You might see some tweaks here and there, but if you're doing both hand in hand, it literally, you are sort of winning life, I guess.
That's where the magic happens.
Yeah, where the magic happens,
when you do both. I mean, obviously there's other things that are really important, like sleep as well. But, you know, if we're going to talk about, you know, exercise and nutrition, you are just not going to get the best results unless you do them together, you know, and that's, you know, just how it is.
And sleep, going on to that,
Oh
I mean,
my
like when
God.
you've got kids so young,
God,
it kills me. But you know, that's, I mean, that, you know, that's hopefully just a phase. Praying, fingers crossed.
It is. I promise it's a phase.
Because that also, I have to say, that does also influence your kind of food choices a little bit. Because you're like, if you haven't slept and you're a bit sleep deprived, you're like, right, let's grab some coffee, let's have something a bit naughty or a bit more fuller because you feel a bit more cold, and you know, it's a bit different.
But we need to lean into that. You know, what we do is we fight it, and we are never going to win against our hormones. We just need to understand that. But if we lean into it and we make choices to accommodate for what our body is telling us, we're going to make better food choices. When I'm tired, it is the biggest driver for increased appetite I have. By far. You know, maybe like around my period, then I have the week before, I've got increased appetite. But the biggest driver of an increased appetite and sweet cravings for me is when I'm sleep deprived. Knowing that, if I've had a poor night's sleep, I will lean into it and I'll make choices that help me with that. So I will have more carbs on my plate. I will do that on purpose because I know I need them. I will plan something sweet into my day, but I'll make a better sweet choice. So it might be one of my healthy brownies, it might be an oat bar, it might be something that is still giving me some nutrition, isn't going to give me a massive sugar crash, but it's still satisfying that craving. So if we know that's how we feel and we work with our body instead of saying, oh, you're tired, just power through, and then never going to work because by 4 o'clock you're going to have a giant chocolate bar. So same with when we're due on our period, our appetite increases, our BMR literally increases. So that's not the week to be dieting, that's not the week to be strict with yourself. That's the week to sort of have bigger portion of carbs, that's the week to have the complex carbs, that's the week to have the lovely breads and have the chocolate.
And I think that's just about, it's the education piece here, because you're right, like knowing all this information, I think everyone will start making different choices. And when you say lean into it, you're so right. It's sort of the powerful mind, for, you know, being really powerful to make those decisions. But otherwise, I think, and that is so important, the education piece, because then you will be able to make better decisions.
But you know, we have to educate women because we just don't know. You know, all we say to women is, you know, always try and diet, be strict, avoid the carbs, you know, and actually it doesn't work. You know, we are complicated, we're beautifully complicated. You know, we can't always be trying to undereat. It just doesn't work. So, you know, if I'm working with someone on weight loss, which is a big part of my clinic, that week I'm like, we are not in deficit that week. That week we are in maintenance calories, maybe even slight surplus, because that's the week your body needs it. And actually, interestingly, apart from the physical side of things, psychologically, if you're always trying to deprive yourself, it starts off this process of feeling deprived and it just doesn't feel really good. And what happens with most of us is there's going to be a bounce back.
But then how do you, I mean, because I guess for someone who is very into sort of social media and sees all these kind of fad diets and sees all these, you know, people looking great, but, you know, obviously what happens, how they look great and kind of their routine, their morning routine, people do get influenced, I guess. So how does one avoid that? I mean, I know it's, okay, switch off social media, but
not possible.
But not possible because it's So I mean, like, how do we sort of avoid that, and how do we know what's the right from wrong? I mean, obviously, it's great meeting people like you because you can tell us what's right from wrong to a certain extent as well. And then obviously we have to use our powerful minds. But what kind of advice would you give to that?
I think we have to learn to be a little bit skeptical. Okay. If you are seeing a 25-year-old influencer who looks incredible, I'll tell you two things for a fact. It's her age and her genes, okay? Because let me tell you, when I was 25, I lived off Haribos and white wine and I looked incredible, okay? Like, you know, and super noodles. And I looked great, okay? I don't want to eat that way anymore, obviously. But we have to understand that it's not what she's telling us might not work for us because we are not 25.
Yeah.
And, we don't have her lifestyle, we don't have her genetics. So we need to take it with a pinch of salt, number one. And number two, we have to experiment and find out what works for us. I'll say to my clients, I will give you the advice based on the science, based on what you told me. I'll make recommendations, but it's still in a bit of an experiment. I might recommend that you have 3 meals a day and you hit 100 grams of protein, but actually after 3 or 4 sessions, we might find that you're better off on 2 meals and 2 snacks and 120 grams of protein. So it's, and if you're really engaged with your own body and your own nutrition and exercise for a few months, by the end of that, you will nail what works for you.
Yeah.
So sure, see something online and you think, oh, that looks good, that looks interesting, she looks amazing, I'll try it. But know that it might not work for you. And after a few months, you will land on what works for you.
Yeah, and that's the best bit, I bet, just knowing your body and knowing what it's like and being happy with it as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is a beautiful thing.
It's so empowering.
It is, it really is.
It's so empowering to be able to say, I don't like it, doesn't work for me, not doing it. And also 100%. Knowing exactly what works for your body, for your biology, for your genetics, and it's really lovely to see that. But you've got to engage with the process for a little while.
That makes so much sense. So I guess, I guess what would be your kind of pick me up? So like, let's say you're having a great week and you're just a busy schedule. You've got your 2 kids, and is there anything that sort of you have in your cupboard, let's say, that's your pick me up?
I'm a really big believer in listening to my cravings. So my favorite kind of pick-me-ups are usually something sweet. So I love a date or 3 or 4 with some nuts in it, which kind of always does give me a bit of an energy boost. I love things like an oat slice, which I will always have some in my freezer. So again, this is where a bit of preparation really helps me. When I need a pick-me-up, if I haven't got either some dates or something slightly more nutritious in my freezer, I'm gonna go and find some cake.
Right.
And nothing wrong with cake, really, on occasion, but I know that an hour later I will want more cake.
Yeah.
Because it's just our biology. Because if you have the sugar without the fiber, the effect is going to be that you are going to be looking for something sweet later on. Whereas if you have the sugar with the fiber, it changes how your body handles it. So, I try and have things that satisfy my craving, give me that pick me up, but aren't going to send me on a bit of a roller coaster afterwards. So things like that, you will always find something like that in my freezer.
Wow, might have to do that. It sounds like you said your son did that date with the almond in it.
He loves it. He loves it now. So there's always some lovely big juicy dates in the fridge, always a jar of nuts, or several actually in my fridge, and there will always be something cakey, but high fiber as well in the freezer. Like at the minute, I think I've got some oat slice, apple and oat slice in my freezer, and I've got some of my seed bread, which toasted with loads of butter and honey. It's just amazing, and you get that comfort of
I think I
toast.
I think you posted on this.
Oh my God,
I think I saw this. Yeah,
it's so
it made me think, oh my God,
so you get the comfort of toast, because it's so full of seeds and nuts and oats. It's not going to give me a sugar crash.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not about calories, because these things are just as calorific as having a chocolate bar. It's about the composition and where those calories come from.
It's about what you eat, and what you want to put into your body.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they always say treat your body like a temple, like a shrine.
Definitely.
And so just making sure everything that goes in. And obviously at times we can't do that, but you're absolutely right. I mean, I think I have to probably look through my pantry and my fridge before you even come into the to the door. Before I invite you over for dinner, we're going to have to
come and rummage in your cupboards and see what's going on in there.
The secret life.
So we've all got those convenience foods. We've all got those treat foods. And there's nothing wrong with them. It's just how often we have them.
No, this has been so educational, honestly. I think this is, and I think we need to do more of this, because I feel like, as you said, that sort of peak point was knowing your body, knowing what goes in, and just the psychology behind it, and the mind over matter sort of thing. And with everything, it takes time, right? As you know,
of course,
everything to build up because when you've been on holiday and then you haven't done your, let's say, reform or any type of fitness for a while, going back into it is such a struggle. But as soon as you go back into it, you're totally fine. And it's the same with this. You can make a change, and it just takes a couple of days to maintain that routine.
Absolutely. And food and movement are the 2 biggest investments we can make in our health.
It's true.
It's just, it always amazes me when people say to me, oh, but I can't be bothered. I'm like, it's your health.
Yeah.
Like, you say you can't be bothered, but why have you come to see me?
Yeah.
It's your health. Like it's how you feel.
Yeah.
I want to feel this
every
way
day.
every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
I want to feel this way when I'm 80.
Yeah.
The truth is, it's a game of odds. We might do everything right and something might still go wrong. But I know that living the way we live is improving.
Gives us more
my
opportunity
odds.
as well.
That's it.
And more, to live longer if we can, So I think absolutely. I think you're right that movement and nutrition is it's so key.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just our sort of final point now, because I know that obviously we touched upon around hormones and females and, obviously things change when we're a bit more, the older we get. And there's obviously massive topics around sort of hitting perimenopause, menopause. And if I'm being honest, a lot of us, well, I can speak for a few of me and my friends and things like that, I don't feel like I know much about it. Maybe that's my fault because I think I need to educate myself. I sort of hear these names flying around and I'm like, am I in perimenopause? What happens when you almost get a bit apprehensive and a bit scared a little bit, like what happens to our bodies and what happens to us and what am I expecting to sort of just go crazy at my kids one day? And like, I guess it's the preconception, like what does it all mean? And I know that you've been doing a lot of work around sort of perimenopause and menopause, which are very, very crucial and important topics for all of us. So can you just tell us a bit more about like your work that you're doing for that and, just things, maybe just something that for us to a bit more of awareness around it?
Well, I mean, it's so huge, which I love, because the fact is, if we live long enough, 100% of us are going to go through perimenopause and menopause. And it's a little bit ridiculous, really, that something that every single woman on the planet is going to go through, and there is such little research and medical awareness around it. So it's so lovely to be a small part of a movement that is trying to educate and empower women. And it's not only, and the reason I'm doing more work in perimenopause and menopause is because it's not just about how we feel in that transition decade, let's say, because perimenopause can last for up to a decade.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking years. So, but also because of the health effects of later on.
Right.
So if we don't get through it as well as possible, we are at significant increased risk of some really serious illnesses. So I want to, both for myself, for all my friends, for all my clients, and every woman out there that sort of listens to what I have to say, try and help them get through it well, enjoyably, if at all possible, which it is possible, but also to minimize the risk of these really awful illnesses. So, women are scared of things like breast cancer, as we should. It happens far more often than it should, but the biggest killer of women is heart disease. And navigating perimenopause in one way will either reduce or increase your chances of heart disease. If women know what to do, they will make sure that they are reducing the chances of it. It's things like that really drive me to want to educate women. But also when I see someone in my office crying and not knowing what's wrong with them, and what's wrong with them is that they're in perimenopause and their doctor hasn't taken it seriously. And actually, when we understand that we have receptors for estrogen on every single cell on the body, when it starts going crazy, which is what happens during perimenopause, of course you're going to feel it. So physically, emotionally, mentally, so women need to know enough so that they can start to make better choices and help themselves through what can be a really difficult time if we don't navigate through it.
Well, that's so interesting because I feel like it's such an important topic, but it's not sort of shouted about as much as it needs to. And you're right, because even some of my clients, I hear conversations that they're entering perimenopause, they're entering menopause, but I don't know if everyone knows what it all can mean for everyone and the things that we need to do proactively to help us navigate it, I guess.
Yes, I mean, there's loads we can do, and we can talk about that more next time if you want, but if you think that the average age of menopause, which is when your period officially stops, is 51, I think, in the UK,
right,
and that perimenopause can last, and that's the average age, and perimenopause can last up to 10 years. So if you kind of work backwards, in your late 30s, you can be in perimenopause.
Wow.
Because 51 is the average age. Some women go through menopause at 47, 48. So if we work backwards, at 38, you could potentially be entering perimenopause, that phase where your hormones are going crazy. Very high estrogen, very low estrogen. And that roller coaster, the effect it has on the body, the effect it has on the mind, is, to say profound doesn't do it justice. And we are, although there is a lot more conversation, it's still not enough. I have women come into my office saying to me, I went to my GP, gave them all my symptoms, and they said to me, you're too young to be in perimenopause. These are women in their early 40s, which is, it, to me, blows my mind.
Yeah, completely.
Blows my mind.
That's when the changes I would expect. But what also blows my mind as well is what you just said around now, because if it can happen like 10 years prior. So me in my mid-30s, I would have no clue. I wouldn't even think it would affect me, because I would think of like mums and their age, like, you know, and I would think, oh, like 20 years time, it's nothing to do with me. But it's when we probably should be educating that population and on all of us as well. But and that's wow.
We need to start understanding. Like, I want my daughter to know what perimenopause is. I want her to be talking, you know, in her friendship group in their 20s and 30s, and
like
understand,
openly,
understand, for example, the importance of exercise to make your bones as strong as possible in your 20s and 30s and 40s, because down the line, when our bones start to become more fragile, if you've laid down loads of really strong bone at that point, then, you know, we're a much better place to deal with menopause later on. And we don't say these things to women.
No,
why aren't we
it's kind of like a taboo in a weird way, because even periods and stuff, it's always a bit like, oh, we got our period, or perimenopause, menopause, and I feel like it needs to be just talked about. And, you know,
like, I want to change the narrative. I want women to know that you can be in perimenopause and still be amazing, and still be strong, and still be sexy, and still be all of those things, because, you know, I think at the moment it's a little bit like,
we're living,
you know,
proof, aren't we?
I know, right? Hello. You know, I mean, I'm 44. I'm nearly 45. You know, so when I think about that, I'm like, I'm not ready to be done with anything. Like, I feel great because I have enough education to know how to take care of myself. And so many women don't have that. And I think it's really, really unfair, because, and if you think about it, it coincides with having careers, with having kids, sometimes having teenagers, having elderly parents to look after. In the meantime, we might be falling apart. So, you know, we need to help women because they're not
alone.
No, we're really not.
And it does, and I think some people felt like, I know one of my friends, she was, you know, you do feel quite alone when you're going through that kind of phase, and it's just what can we do more about it? And like, you know, just on that, actually, I know that you and I have spoken about this, and we really want to bring some education to, you know, our locals here, and so we've decided, obviously, to everyone, that we are going to do an event on perimenopause and menopause, which is going to be led by you, and we might have a great panelist as well. So it'll be in the studio, and we're doing it on 17th of October at 8 p.m. So we will start having that out on ClassFit shortly, so everyone can start registering. But I think it's an important thing. So we're going to get a nice, lovely talk, and then we're going to finish it off with this lovely sound bath as well. And I'm really excited about it, because I think it'll be great for everyone to just learn a bit more about their bodies, and learn a bit more about what's to come, or what's already happening, and just not knowing what to do. So I'm really, I think this will be a really good thing for us to do as together, and then just have some relaxation at the end.
Sounds amazing. I'll make sure that women are going to finish that session with some actionable points. I want everyone to leave having learned some things that they can take away and do from that very same day to start to help themselves.
Oh, I'm excited. I think even today I felt like I'm much more educated than I was before this talk. So thank you very much for coming in today and talking all fitness and nutrition, and how the combination together of movement and nutrition is so powerful.
It really is.
And I love working with you, and I hope we'll be doing lots more of these.
I'm sure we will.
But yeah, thank you very much for coming today.
Great, thank you for having me.
Thank you.